Hey everybody, this is Darren and you're watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies. And today I'm going to talk about the absolute best action movies you can currently watch on Netflix. Was that vodka? If you're new here, there will be a couple of selections that are great picks that are not going to make the list, only because they've been talked about very recently on the channel. I try not to repeat myself too much, so if you are new here, click that subscribe button and be sure to click the bell icon, because for some reason subscribing is useless on YouTube without it. They make you go through 2 steps now, but you'll never run out of good movies to watch on Netflix and other streaming services if you subscribe. I put out videos like this every single week, but let's get started with this list at number 10 with The Kingdom. Now the reason I put this at number 10 is because while it is a good action movie towards the end, it is a very slow burn leading up to it. But it's got a very nice, long, very realistic action sequence at the end that really makes this movie. Now, leading up to it, there's like an investigation. Jamie Foxx stars in it. So it's got a pretty good cast. But Peter Berg directs, and Peter Berg has really turned into a fantastic director. He's done Lone Survivor and a handful of other real-life dramas. And this was kind of an early attempt at that for him. It wasn't his first movie, but certainly sort of an early attempt in that genre. And it succeeds. While it's not as good as his later work, it really is good, and it's very, very overlooked. Odds are it's probably popped up on Netflix. You've seen maybe Jamie Foxx in sunglasses with a gun and maybe not thought twice about it. I'd recommend looking into this one. If you like what you're seeing, that's basically what you're going to get. Just be prepared for that slow burn like I told you. At number 9, I'm going to go with just a cheese fest, Deep Blue Sea. Now this one, odds are you've seen it. Odds are you either hated it or you loved it. If you hated it, I would recommend maybe giving it another spin. Alcohol, while I'm not suggesting you drink alcohol, because I don't know if any of you have problems or anything, alcohol or other substances might enhance your viewing of this one. It's important to not take this one too seriously. It's a movie about sharks that are smart. Right there, you just need to know, you need to turn your brain off for this one. And if you do, it's fun. LL Cool J is a chef for some reason. Samuel L. Jackson has got like a really weird role in it. Again, intelligent sharks that are somehow able to pick people off one by one. People that are, supposedly in a secure underwater base is fantastic. I love it. It's not one that I'll watch a lot, but with the recent addition to Netflix, I'm going to have to revisit this one because it's been a while. We are going to get into some really good gems further down the list as we approach number 1, so just keep in mind this is the back end of the list, but I've talked about Beyond Skyline recently on the channel, and this one is a really cool little action movie that I know a lot of people missed. The thing that's cool about this is it was done on a very, very low budget, but it looks like a big budget movie. So don't expect a stellar writing. Don't watch this for the writing. The acting's okay, it's passable. Don't watch it for any of that. Again, I would say don't even really watch this one for the story. Watch this one for the spectacle. This one does not stop. Once it gets going, it's just boom, boom, boom. They're constantly on a different set. There's constantly something happening. It's visually interesting, and when you know that they're doing this on a really, really low budget with cutting edge techniques, it makes it that much cooler. This is basically a passion project by a guy that does a lot of special effects work for big movies like The Avengers. This is sort of a private project for him, and it's a sequel to another movie he basically did from his home. So I think that's really cool. This one is successful. It's bigger and badder than the original, and for that, I really liked it. At number 7, 24 Hours to Live is a really cool little Ethan Hawke action movie that came out last year. They got really overlooked. Now, it got overlooked because it's not stellar, it's really derivative, it takes from a lot of things, and it feels really familiar. Not in the best way. It feels like something you've seen before. But that said, it is a badass action movie currently available on Netflix that nobody is really talking about and nobody watched. It's very, very overlooked. Now, I read through some reviews on this one, and there were some reviews that were like, move over, John Wick. And I'd just like to say something to the people involved with the production. of 24 Hours to Live, if you're going to go on to IMDb and leave reviews for a movie you worked on, try not to make it super obvious. That said, it's a cool little flick. Don't expect much. I've got it back here towards the back of the list. Have low expectations. You're going to be pleasantly surprised by this one. At number 6 is the only real comedy on the list. And you'll notice I'm leaving out movies like Lethal Weapon. I've already talked about those. Those have been on recent lists. They've been on a previous action movie list. All those are available. But right now, Tropic Thunder is available. And even though Tropic Thunder is a 100% comedy from top to bottom, it has got some really sick action in it. It's got fight sequences. There's shooting. There's explosions. This was actually directed by Ben Stiller, and I think this is where he was really hitting his stride. And then all of a sudden he decides to overreach with things like Walter Mitty, and he tried to get too, I don't know, he's overthinking it. He needs to get back to doing things like this and quit with this indie shit he's been up to, because this movie is really badass, and the only reason you're probably not excited about it is because you've probably seen it more than once. So that's the reason it's kind of in the middle here, is everybody's seen it, so it doesn't deserve to be further up the list. But I remember loving this one when it came out. Not only is the action sick, but the humor in this one is just really, really spot on, and there's so many bits that continue all the way through that are just they're funny from the beginning to the end of the movie as well. Number 5, we're going to start to get in some real, action movies with John Woo's Face Off. Now, this one has a cheese factor, mostly because Nicolas Cage and John Travolta just chew up the scenery with their acting, but that's also kind of what makes this one a little cool. Like, you're very aware of their acting, but it adds some flavor to this one that you don't get with other movies. And this is when John Woo was still kind of cool. This is when he could put doves, in a scene, and a lot of guns and a lot of slow-mo. Those are all of his trademarks that he uses to death in every movie. By the way, he's got a new one on Netflix as a Netflix original called Manhunt. It is horrific. I think he's maybe just over the hill and cannot glue together a story anymore. It's really terrible. I've talked about it on the podcast. If you didn't know how to podcast, check it out. You can look for it on iTunes and pretty much everywhere you get podcasts. That said, Face Off uses all of his trademark things really well. Like, they all play together really well. This one's long, it's epic, the action's cool. It's got that late 90s thing that you don't get anymore from action movies. Yip Man is, and yes, it is pronounced Yip Man, not Ip Man or IP Man, but it is about a real martial arts master who is really considered by many to be one of the greatest martial arts masters of all times. In fact, he was really one of Bruce Lee's teachers before he died in the 70s. And this movie is not really a biopic, even though it sort of is, but it really just takes place. It's one story. It's a smaller segment of his life. And there's actually a whole series of Yip Man movies. The first one is the place to start. Obviously, it's one of the best. It's got some really good action in it. It is about a martial arts teacher, so it's not like you're going to get, people's heads getting blown off or anything like that, but it's got some incredible martial arts work in it, really fantastic, and it's a period piece, unlike, I think, anything else on the list here, so for that, it really stands out on this list as well. Number 3, I wanted to rank it a little higher, but it's just a little bit too dry for me, and that's the Bourne Ultimatum. Now, I've never really liked any of the Bourne movies. They're okay for me, but they just don't really hit, they just don't really grab me the way some other action movies really do. But Bourne Ultimatum really is the best by all accounts. It's directed the best, it's got the best action, the story really sort of blossoms in this one. It's a shame the latest one was just kind of a dud, but this one's really solid. For me, you can really just watch this one by itself. I think all the sort of computer room drama that happens across all of the movies really gets pretty grueling. This one has less of it, and it's got more street action, more fighting, more running, more jumping, all of that, some good car chases, some very realistic action. So for that, I really, really do like a lot of elements of this one. It's just a little stiff for me to rank it higher. A movie that is not stiff, and I have talked about recently on the channel, I believe on the podcast, are my Flicks of the Week. If you haven't seen that series, definitely check it out. I put it out every single Tuesday. But Wanted, I loved this movie when it came out. It's got its flaws, but it's so much fun. I can easily overlook the flaws and kind of the silliness of this one. In fact, the silliness of it is what makes it really just such a gem. It's just so fun to watch. The thing that makes this one as good as it is it's very self-aware. It knows what type of movie it is. It knows it's not realistic, and it doesn't try to be too overly dramatic, yet there is some drama. There's some intense action, and it really is just a spectacle. Sort of in a time where, like, action movies are getting tired and have been getting tired, and you feel like you're seeing the same thing over and over again. If you didn't like Wanted and you're tired, you feel like you're seeing the same thing all the time, I don't know what else you want, because this one really stood out when it came out as something really new and special. It's a shame we didn't get to see more of these. And number one, it's barely an action movie, so I hate to put it at number one, but I love this movie so much. Sin City. Not Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, but the original Sin City. I love everything about this movie. I didn't know anything about Sin City when it came out. Happened to go see it because it looked cool. Absolutely loved it. Saw it a couple of times in theaters. Bought the graphic novels. Read them. Loved them. Watched it, like burned a hole in the DVD when I got it. I loved everything about this. This is really when I came, really obsessed with Robert Rodriguez. At this time, I loved him more than Quentin Tarantino, and I can't say that that's the case anymore. I really don't like what he's been doing lately. That said, Sin City, I love. It's a shame the sequel really was just kind of a bomb, and it was. It just didn't have the magic of this first one. But this first one, no matter how many times I watch it, every scene is entertaining to me. I look forward to seeing parts that I like and that I love. The flavor of it is just so good, and it does such a fantastic job, because I have read the graphic novels. It does such a perfect job of bringing what Frank Miller did on the page to the screen. It really, really does. You don't even have to read the books to find out. You can just take my word for it. But that's my number one pick. If you disagree, which I'm sure some of you will, please let me know in the comments. I will read them. But I will keep making videos like this one as long as you keep watching them. But thanks for watching this one, and you will see me next time.